Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today I am going to be doing a review of the Craftworld of Lodalach-Mus Discord fan project that was created by Horizon Italianmoose and a few other people. I want to give the credit to the creators, which are listed right here. Jess Goodwin for the original Space Fleet artwork, which is what the fleet was actually based upon. The 3D designs were done by Italianmoose, the background done by Carneth. Lodalach-Mus room design, again by Italianmoose. And the background story is Horizon himself. And of course, Kelnar and Italianmoose for the class names. And test grammar and spelling edits by Arcane Shipyard. Now, um, yeah, this thing right here, these are Eldar rules. Things are very different. That's why we're going to go through all the rules and do a full review. And we're going to get started right away. Here we go. Special rules. Now, these baseline rules for movement are virtually the same with, all of this is the same right about through here, all the way up into this very last section. The Eldar are exceptionally quick and maneuverable and may move twice per movement phase, i.e., first turn, first move at appropriate speed, and then second turn, second move at appropriate speed, all in the movement phase. And then they go into the shooting phase. Many people who are old farts of the fandom will recognize these as move, move, shoot rules, created by Sigurov, nonetheless. These rules utilize move, move, shoot rules, and a lot of things change as a result. Now, first things first, burn retros. You still can't do burn retros. All ahead. Oh, my name isn't here. Nice. Yay. All ahead full. When all ahead full special orders, an Eldar ship redirects weapon energies to its thrusters, gaining 5d6 centimeter speed to one of its movements, but may not turn during both movement phases. Okay. Eldar ships may not ram. No surprises there. Take that, Black Library. Come to new heading. When you come to new heading, at the end of your last move, you may take one extra turn at the end of your last move. You still lose half your firepower, but not your ordnance. Remember that. Lock on, same as always. You may not turn either movement phases. Natural starfarers, spacefarers, sorry, nothing new here. +1 leadership when generating their leadership for each ship. Okay, celestial phenomena, things again are a little bit different. Okay. They do not suffer leadership movement or movement penalties from celestial phenomena. Eldar escorts automatically pass tests for traversing asteroids. Eldar capital ships may re-roll the failed test when doing so. That is different. When attempting to traverse warp rifts, Eldar suffer -2 LD. Furthermore, they are lost in the warp. They are lost on a 3+ instead of a 2+. So they're actually adding in the fluff that the warp is not a happy place for the Eldar. Wraithbone of Old, these ships are critted on a roll of a 6. That's another big difference. Victory points are the same. Holofields. Holofields are very different. All of these ships have shields, which should be quite a surprise to most players. So, they have a shield, but they also have holofields. Holofields have the same effect on column shifts. It's one extra column shift to the right. And in addition, they don't work within 15 centimeters. So these holofields are pretty awful, okay? And that's very important for a lot of facets of the game that we'll get into later. When it comes to all of the other things that normally are affected by holofields, but not Nova cannons or the Armageddon gun, holofields offer a save, okay? And they're also more effective when they're far away. If you pass the save, no blast marker is placed. Something to consider, unlike a normal holofields, which do have have blast marker placement. So bear that in mind. Holofields above 30 centimeters, you save on a 5+, between 15 and 30, on a 6+, and under 15, there is no save whatsoever. If you fail the save, you lose a shield. Okay. And of course, anything that ignores holofields, like star pulse generators or activated blackstone fortresses, holofield offers no protection, and do not save against ordnance. Another element where these are much, much weaker than your normal holofield. Okay, moving on. Ordnance, all ordnance is effectively the same. Turrets. Eldar have turrets now. They have all of their turrets hit on 3s. Weaponry. Eldar have superior tracking systems and will always be able to plot where to fire. Their weapons batteries are worse. They only gain a left column shift. They don't always count as closing. Pulsars, exactly the same. They also have access to what's called an Ancient Seer Council. The Ancient Seer Council is a 50-point upgrade. You put it on any capital ship, and you will select one of these psychic powers. Okay? A psychic attack during the end phase, make a hit and run attack with 2d6 instead of 1d6. So any end phaser within 10 centimeters of somebody, you can nail them with a critical hit, like a full-on critical hit. Skein of Fate, you may once per turn re-roll any single dice. Phantom Drift. Upon a successful, I don't know why Burn Retros is listed here. The Eldar can't even go on it. Come to new heading or all head full. You may reposition the ship 5 centimeters in any direction before executing either the first or the second move. Yeah, that needs to be deleted. There are some grammatical errors and some edits that need to be done. Destroyer, once per battle, when an enemy vessel within 15 centimeters of any friendly vessel suffers any kind of critical damage, this is interesting. This may mean that you can also do it for a hit and run attack, because that is critical damage. I think it means normal critical, because it mentions 2d6. Anyway, you may roll 4d3 instead of the usual 2d6 when rolling to see what kind of critical hit is dealt. These 4 dice can be rolled together or separately. So you have the chance of doing 4 individual d3s on the critical hits table if you want to just knock out a bunch of weapons. Or you can do 4d3 altogether and have a much greater chance of getting like the really nice critical damage. So that's actually an interesting one. Prophecy of Doom. When this ship inflicts a critical hit on an enemy, add 1 to the result, even from ordnance attacks, so that includes hit and runs. When the ship suffers a critical hit, however, the enemy may add 1 to their result. As this needs to be as well. So some grammar needs help there, but those are interesting powers. Okay, we have a new critical hit table, as you can see. It's vaguely similar to that of the Eldar. There's a couple of swap outs. The mainsail, it's hollow field generators, and 10 is shields collapse. So you actually have the shields collapse option. Your damage zones are 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. There's some pretty ships. They're very pretty. There's the lore, and now we're on to the actual ships themselves. Here's the Dragon's Anvil at 425 points. I'm going to be doing most of my comparison with the Voidstalker. That's the most appropriate comparison ship. 12 battleship. Remember that your speeds are technically doubled because you can move up to twice. So 5, 10, 15, or 10, 20, 30, maybe. 45-degree turn, 3 shields and hollow fields, 5 up save, and 3 turrets. It is equipped with port and starboard weapons, so yeah, we have actual broadsides on these things. At strength 10, left and right. Keel Pulsar Lance at strength 4. Your pulsars can fire front, left, right when on lock-on special orders, and its prow launch base of strength 4. It also has can replace the prow launch base with a strength 8 torpedo, and those are Eldar torpedoes, so that's pretty nice. That's a pretty nice choice. At 425, I mean, this is a much more durable Eldar vessel. I can understand why it's so expensive. 5 up to hit, 6 up to crit. You have hollow fields and shields. She's expensive, a little undergunned, at least in my opinion, because again, you can only fire so many of these things, and the normal Eldar tactic of specific directional fire, saturation fire on one target really doesn't apply here. But it's a good ship, at least as far as I can tell. I'm going to save most of my opinions for at the end of the video. So here we are on the Elisar Grand Cruiser. This is their take on the Flame of Assyrian. It's more expensive at 350 points, and you're going to soon see why. Cruiser, 8 hits, despite the fact that it's a Grand Cruiser, because we already established that their battleship can have 12. I don't know why this doesn't have 10. 10, 15, 25, so it is a very fast mover. 90-degree turn, 2 hollow fields, 5 up armor, 3 turrets. It has port and starboard pulsars that fire front only, no front, left, front, right, like on the Flame. Power weapons battery at 45. Always are at 45, yeah. Strength 12 out the front. Keel launch bays, you can have its launch capacity 2, and you have a keel sun cannon. Sun cannons are a little like bombardment cannons. If they hit, they crit on a 4. They always have the left gunnery shift. They're a little worse than bombardment cannons, but they got a nice shift. Very fast, very frontal assault. This thing does not really correspond with a lot of the other elements of the fleet. It kind of stands out. So, but anyway, moving on. The Dragon's Heart battle cruiser at 270 points. It's a cruiser 8 ship with 5, 10, 20 speed, turns 45, 2 holofields, 5 up armor, and 3 turrets. Port and starboard weapon battery at strength 8, and that's it. At 45, but still that's it. And you pick one of the following weapons. You can have a launch capacity 4 launch bay. You can have prow torpedoes at the same strength as the battleship, I have to point out. So that's a lot of torpedoes for a cruiser vessel. Considering your standard Eldar cruiser can only have strength 4. That's a lot. I mean, hell, the dragon ship, in the Craftworld, I think can only have strength 6. I may be wrong about that. But still, strength 8, that's a big number. Proud Pulsar Lance, strength 2, 45, out the front. Obviously, the Pulsar can fire front, left, right when on lock on at 270 points. All right, these are your Wraith ships. Here's the Wraith's bow, 160 points. Port and starboard, strength 5, weapons battery at 45, and keel torpedoes at strength 4. This is not a bad little ship. Does its job. I mean, it's going to need squadroning to be effective, but still, nothing wrong with it. Now, this, I think, is where we hit our first major typo. These are only strength 4 on the Wraith's blade. I think they're meant to be strength 5 because the weapons are equivalent. The 2 pulsars are equivalent to 4 torpedoes. So I think that may be a typo. Without it, it's kind of weak, but with it, it's a sturdy little 6-hit cruiser. All right, on to the escorts. So we have 2 forms of escort. We have the Shadow's Falcon and the Shadow's Mask. Shadow's Falcon is a 55-point escort. Escort 1, 10, 15, 25. Turns 90, 1 holofield, 1 shield and a holofield, 5 up armor, and 1 turret. The dorsal weapon battery is a strength 45 centimeter, strength 3, left, front, right. That's pretty nice. I don't think there's any escort. There are no Eldar escorts in the game that fire their shots front, left, right. They're all straight out the front, which means you get that beautiful benefit of being a beam. You have keel torpedoes at strength 1. Normally, this is kind of like a falchion, only really, really good. You would need to squadron enough to make these torpedoes meaningful because Eldar really shouldn't be using their torpedoes as interceptors. But for 55 points for a front, left, right string 3 battery, that's not too shabby. Shadow's Mask, 40-point escort. Escort 1, 15, 20, 25, 90-degree turn, 1 shield, 1 holofield, 4 up save, 1 turret, dorsal weapon battery, front, left, right again, at 45 centimeters at strength 2. And this enemies must make a leadership test when trying to target the Shadow's Mask. You may ignore this ship in the case of target priority if you need to shoot beyond it. So the other ships are transport vessels. You can have a look at these at your heart's content. I'm really focused on combat ships. So that's that. Let's go down and look at ghost ships. Now, ghost ships here are very interesting. Ghost ships here actually have some use, and I'll explain. Enemy vessel. Yeah, a lot of these are very, very similar to the ghost ships in Yandon. Ghost ships suffer critical hit, 1 additional repair. This is, I think, new. Ghost ships roll 1 additional repair dice when trying to repair. You may not do boarding, fail special order, can't only move. See, your council is assigned to a ghost ship. They may spend their reroll on a failed special order. They cannot be squadron, extra period. Okay, some things are adjusted if you make certain ships ghost ships, like the Dragon's Anvil. You can replace the prow launch bays into a strength 6 weapons battery at 45 centimeter range, front, left, right arc, making that strength 10 weapons battery into a strength 16 weapons battery with 4 pulsars. That's a pretty hot deal. I would do that. Dragon's Heart may only choose the Pulsar Lance prow weapon option. This I don't like, because you're basically hamstringing the ship. You should get some kind of benefit for being a ghost ship. And you're really not getting a benefit from this in that case. Wraith's Bow, you change the keel torpedoes to a strength 5 weapons battery, front, left, right. That's pretty nice. Full-on solid battery boat. Really handy. Wraith's Blade, profile's unchanged, so no reason to put it on the Wraith's Blade, because you don't get any kind of benefit from it. So ghost ships are slightly more useful in this fleet than the utter uselessness out of a Yandon. All right, let's go into the actual fleet list. Okay, fleet commander. Obviously, same basic rules. You can either take a Starfarer or a Great Starfarer. Fleets of greater than 750 must include a Starfarer to lead it. All right. Yeah, one Starfarer. The baseline Starfarer is 75, which is a pretty good deal for LD9 and a reroll. Your Great Starfarer is 120. That is very expensive. You have a 0 to 3 Seer Council, which lets you, for 50 points, you pick one of the psychic powers. 50 points for a cool attack? Yeah, that's about on par with, I would say, the Necron Sepulcher. So yeah, that's pretty acceptable. Now, the actual fleet list, 0 to 1 Dragon's Anvil. You get one, you take it for every 3 Dragon's Heart or Wraith ships at 425. The LSR can just be taken. The Dragon's Heart, 1 can be taken per 2 Wraith ships. So as you can see, they're kind of pressing you to take the LSR. They're pressing you really hard to take their LSR. If your fleet commander is on board a Dragon's Heart, this Dragon's Heart does not count towards the Wraith ship limitation. I don't know what that means. I guess it just means you can take it. But you can only take one, and they're not worth taking. I'll get more into detail about that later, but yeah, if you could take 2 of them, that's acceptable. I think I screwed up in my game because I thought you could take 2. And you kind of should, but either way. 0 to 12 Wraith ships. The Wraith's bow is 160, yeah. And basic standard rules, you could take Vampire Raiders, an attack rating of 4, yeah. So, torpedo tubes are Eldar torpedoes. Nothing surprising there. So let me talk about the game that I played. So, the game that I play, let me go to the right image to show proper deployment zones. I played against Imperial Navy because I wanted a good baseline. As you can see, here's my fleet. I did make the mistake. I thought you could take 2 Dragon's Hearts, but it really didn't affect that much because if I couldn't take the Dragon's Heart, I would have probably taken the LSR, and it would have been even worse for the Imperial Navy player. And just taken fewer Wraith ships or fewer escorts. Not a lot would have changed, is basically what I'm saying. But as you can see, his fleet, he had a Tyrant, a Vengeance, he had 2 Dictators, and he had a Lunar, and I believe that's a Lunar. Yeah, he had a Lunar, 2 Dictators, and a Tyrant. It was 2 Lunars, 2 Dictators, and a Tyrant and a Vengeance, and 5 Firestorms, which you would think would be less than useful, but you would be wrong. They were very, very useful in this game. So here's another profile of that fleet. He was hunkered up right in the corner next to the sun. That marker on the top left is the sun marker. Here's my fleet as I've deployed. As you can see, I deployed at an angle for most of my ships moving across. And here's basically the end of turn 1 in the beginning when the solar flare hit. The sun acted early and didn't do that much, and here was the first major difference. I have no reason to take the leadership check to drift with the sun. I can just take the blast markers because I have shields. I don't care about those things. So I can just sit there, take the blast marker, and since he was out of range that turn, I just moved off them because I didn't really care that much. Okay, blast markers on the table. Wasn't it big a deal? Eldar with shields was kind of a wild concept. And because the sun was sitting here on this edge of the table and my opponent was chilling there next to the sunward edge, the only way that I was going to be effective is if I literally flew over, around, and behind his fleet through his deployment zone. And to get to this asteroid field, because all of this other stuff is gas clouds, which I shouldn't have been afraid of because I have shields. The gas clouds aren't death. In fact, I mean, admittedly, they were helping me because a further column shift, but I shouldn't have been as afraid of them. So eventually, I did come back over and around and strike. And unfortunately, I found the first major difference with this fleet. The never closing on the batteries was a huge power reduction. I mean, it was the amount of devastation that I should have brought down on him was almost negligible. I didn't do really any damage in the first round. All the heavy lifting was done by a torpedo salvo, which slapped around a lunar. But as you can see, I came into this great little area completely, quote unquote, surrounded him. But then the next surprising thing happened. My ships wouldn't take damage. 5-up armor, hollow fields. I mean, it's much harder to hurt these ships than it is a standard Eldar ship. They're meaner in that regard. They are very disrespectful. But it also kind of opened up by the end of the game. And as you can see, things got messy really, really quick. But he was finding it very, very hard to get damage onto me. And then I realized something terrible. Because hollow fields don't work within 15 centimeters, and Ordinance works on me far more effectively than it does normal Eldar, I'm far more vulnerable in close range. And I came into close range. So what did he do? He boarded one of my Dragon's Hearts and proceeded to fold it in half because I have no access to things like Aspect Warrior fighting crews. I have no defenses. So this fleet has an entirely separate category of weaknesses that most other Eldar fleets would not have. I'm much harder to hurt. I actually feel like a strange combination of Chaos and Necrons in a lot of ways. Because the greatest weakness my fleet has is boarding. If I go up against a Space Marine player, I'm going to find myself getting my ass kicked because they can cross the distance pretty easily, and I don't have the firepower to repel them. Pulsar Lances are great if they hit, and you can ask any Eldar player how often Pulsar Lances actually hit. Pro tip, they usually miss in the first salvo. I did pull out a victory from this match, but not without suffering a great deal. And because, again, my opponent's never faced these before, I'm reasonably sure that if I fought them again, I would get my ass absolutely slammed because I feel like this fleet only has one prevailing tactic, which is either what I just did, which is fly around behind the enemy fleet with my really superior speed and maneuverability, or try to play the long range of beam game, which they can do better than me. Most fleets have access to better long range firepower. I mean, against Tau, I get my ass kicked. Tau with their torpedoes and superior ordnance, they would dominate me. Tyranids would destroy me. It would be a joke to play against Tyranids. Necrons, I could probably see myself faring a little better against Necrons. I mean, an Imperial Navy player who knows what they're doing would flatten these because all of the benefits that are present, all of the sacrifices that are made to make move, move, shoot work effectively take away what the Eldar actually are, which is supposed to be fast-moving, maneuverable, and very hard to hit. Now, I did speak to Sigurroth, the guy who invented the move, move, shoot rules, and who was listed in the credits for this. And his argument is, I mean, not a bad one. He's describing move, move, shoot Eldar as not these fairy-like, easily destroyed losers that they are depicted as in the core rules that, do things through evasion and nothing but deceit. He mentions that, no, they actually do have better shields. They actually do have better armor. He's actually pulling from some of the oldest lore in 40K, which is the Eldar have superior technology on every level. Fighting Eldar should be extraordinarily painful, and their ships should be very hard to hurt. And in that extent, they succeeded in their design philosophy. But I'm finding that I'm not feeling it. To me, this feels a little too much like a modified chaos list. It functions too little like Eldar, or at least my mental image of Eldar. And that may be because I've been playing Battlefleet Gothic the normal way since, again, before 2010, and I am biased. But there's something about this fleet that makes me feel like the only reason why somebody would win is because nobody knows how it works. Much like any other Eldar fleet, or really any fleet, the moment people take a good, hard look at the rules, they'll start realizing that it's actually a very simple fleet to defeat. If I were to fight against this fleet, I could do it easily with any Ordnance-heavy fleet, because Ordnance is very hard to get in this. And Eldar Ordinance, the real strength of the Eldar Ordinance is that they can move up close, dump them into you, and then move to safety. You can't do that here, and your holofields are useless. Your shields are useless. You're going to start taking tons of damage from Ordnance. So if you're facing off against an Ordnance-heavy fleet, as the Lodalach-Mus fleet, all of your fighters are going to be dedicated to combat air patrol, to intercepting incoming enemy fighters, bombers, and torpedoes, because you have no defense, and you have no defense against boarding at all. They can just come up and board you, which is terrible. They come up and board you, you have no benefits in boarding. You don't even have the aspect warrior fighting crews. I'm finding that this fleet is a case of extremes. They have extreme strengths. When shot at, they're very hard to hurt. But when the moment you realize that the way to kill them is just simply to launch fighters, launch bombers, launch assault boats, launch all that stuff that everyone else has to suffer against, and only that they are broadly speaking weaker because their ships have fewer hits, broadly speaking, you're going to start beating the fertilizer out of this fleet. I would say this fleet probably has too many weaknesses. So let's go ship by ship, and let me actually give you some opinions on how this maybe could be fixed. Dragon's Anvil, I don't think really needs any fixing. It is a powerful ship, and it can hold its own. I would say that maybe the Strength 10 weapons batteries, because of the way the weapons shifting works in this, may need to be increased to Strength 12. It needs to have the ship cracking ability that the Void Stalker has. And even with these 4 Pulsar Lances, the ability to use all of this at the same time is situational. You need to lock on. And because you're functioning best at a beam, it's not easy to get that shot off. So I would say better firepower in the weapons batteries. The LSR. The LSR really doesn't need anything. This thing is already pretty disgusting. It's good at the 45 range band. It's actually a little too expensive, in my opinion. I would actually increase the Keel Sun Cannon battery to 6 and reduce the weapons batteries to 10. Make this special weapon a little more intimidating. Because with a strength 4, the most you're ever going to ever throw at an enemy ship is 3 dice. With a normal weapons battery, that's frickin' useless. So, yeah, increase that to 6, reduce that to 10. You have a pretty damn good ship. You do have your launch capacity. It's 2, but you know what? Sometimes that's all you need. You can be really cheeky and load it up with torpedo bombers if you want, because you can take torpedo bombers in this fleet. Dragon's Heart Battle Cruiser. There's a lot of problems here. As a battle cruiser, this thing is roughly equipped as a cruiser. The equipment is, broadly speaking, about the same as the Eclipse, no matter what you take. And I'm not satisfied with this ship. The Pulsar Lance should be a Keel Pulsar Lance and standard to it to make it a proper battle cruiser. It would be strong, but it needs to be. This vessel is going to be the hammer of your fleet if you don't want to take a battleship or a grand cruiser. It has to be viable. Right now, it's just kind of there for the launch capacity. There's no reason to take anything but this because your launch capacity is so scarce. You only get launch capacity 4 out of the battleship, and you only get launch capacity 2 out of the grand cruiser. There isn't a lot of carrier capacity here. Also, this thing you should be able to take 2 of these. There's no reason why it's restricted to just 1. It's pretty ridiculous. Now, I think, if my memory serves me right, I did convince Horizon that these should be, if you take it with your fleet commander on it, it doesn't apply to, that ship shouldn't apply to the 0-1. Hopefully that will be edited, because otherwise, why would you take this ship instead of the LSR? Yeah, it doesn't have the launch capacity, but it outguns it like all day, every day. So as pretty as this ship is, it's functionally useless. The only thing it's there for is one option, the prow launch bays, which is sad because these strength 8 torpedoes look sexy. That's a powerful salvo out of a battle cruiser. Honestly, this should be reduced to 6. Not to be a killjoy, but that really should be reduced to 6. Okay, the Wraith's Bow and the Wraith's Blade, these are not bad ships. These are pretty standard Eldar cruisers. Nothing really about them is outlandish. I do think that this ship, this is a typo. I hope it is. If not, it really needs to be increased to 5. There's no reason why these should be 4. But, yeah. Now, the escorts, The escorts are interesting because of that front, left, right firepower. They're not as good as standard Eldar firepower, which is a little bit of a dampener, but 45 centimeter range on both of these things is nice. These are good little escorts. Now, the Shadow's Falcon, these ships are too big to be escorts. They're light cruiser sized, so that's a scale issue. But beyond that, they look great. These are pretty good escorts. I'm okay with these. When it comes to the fleet composition, I think the only change that I would do here is I would change the Starfarer rules. I would make it standard Starfarer. Probably it's at 50 points with 25-point purchase option for a reroll. And then the Great Starfarer at LD10 should be at 75, and then have a band and options for rerolls. Nobody should ever take a 120 point Starfarer, Great Starfarer. There's just no point in it. You get 2 rerolls. But you're LD10. Eldar have great leadership. Rerolls are a scam to make you not take more ships. And this is 3 escorts. I would rather take the 75 point. Seer Council, these are interesting. I do want to play with these. I wanted to ship max in my game, but these are interesting. And they're all reasonably well balanced at 50 points. The fact, though, that you can take 3 of these is maybe a bit much. You should only really be able to take 1, because these powers are all pretty crazy. And the only change here is right here, be allowed to take 2 Dragon's Hearts. There's no reason why it's only 0 to 1. It's a battle cruiser. It's not going to break the game. And they're pretty. You want to take 2, and they're literally designed to be squadronable with their firepower to make them really effective. So, yeah, this needs to be strength 2. Beyond that, though, that's all my opinions on it. When I played it, I was having a lot of problems with getting my brain wrapped around why this fleet had to be made. I can see how it could be fun because, I traversed that table in record time, and I was able to stay away from his firepower until the 5th turn. I literally swept around the board, caught him in a single moment, but when I started shooting, it was so strange to not have damage being laid on my ships. This incredible durability of the Eldar ships was very impressive. And the firepower, like Eldar always is, it's kind of swingy. Sometimes you do a ton of damage, sometimes you do no damage at all. Overall, I believe that this needs a little bit more work time in the oven. We need to see increases to the Dragonheart. We need to see a little bit of corrections in the writing of some of the rules, but overall, if you really like the Lodalach-Mus ships, the Ancient Elfdar ships by Italianmoose, and you want to play with their rules, do so. It's a fun little fleet. Just get permission from the player. I would say these rules are still in beta testing, though. They still need a little bit of work. Overall, my favorite ship is definitely the Dragon's Anvil. It just looks so good. I love the idea of these beautiful towering sails. If there was any weakness of the actual minis, I would say that the sails are very fragile, very fragile, very, very fragile. They need to have an option that permits replacement if they're damaged, especially over here on the Dragon's Heart. I've had Dragon's Heart sails snap off almost nonstop. It's a pain. Unfortunately, this Elfdar fleet are gonna be home use only because of how much damage they've suffered. Just by, your standard, oops, I knocked it over with my hand. They're just so fragile. So overall, this is Lodalach-Mus, guys. What do you guys think about them? They're beautiful, but what do you think of their rules? Give me your thoughts and opinions. And of course, I am sure Sigurath is going to come on and insist right to his core that they are better than anything that has ever been made for the Eldar. And I already am telling you I disagree, Sigurath. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Have a great day.